Why does her husband, Nick Mosby, is a councilman in that area where all this violence is taking place?
So her husband's a councilman, and also she received financial support and transition support from the Gray family attorney. So you think there's a huge conflict of interest? Is this talked a lot about in the circles of police officers that you deal with every day?
Yes. And you could see, Nick Mosby on TV, arm in arm with protesters, and the next day, his wife is, lecturing us on justice. You got to be kidding me.
What about the claims that he was seeking prompt medical attention, and there was controversy over a stop that was not initially reported? What can you tell us about that?
He was initially, obviously, you've seen the videotape, asking for medical assistance. And I can't speak for the officers in every aspect, but I can tell you through experience that when you arrest somebody in Baltimore, one of the biggest cards they like to play so they avoid going to our central booking intake facility is to say, I'm hurt, take me to the hospital. Because the last thing an aggressive officer who wants to make arrests and better that community wants to do is be out of service all day on a Sunday to try to, appease someone who's not hurt. So I could understand, where they're coming from with that.
I talked to other sources who told me that Freddie was well known to most officers, and he often, quote, carried on when he was arrested. Did you know this individual?
No, I didn't personally, but I do know of Dante Allen, the cohort in the back of the van.
You do know him, the one that changed the story?
Correct. The day after we give the prosecutor in this case, the case folder for the homicide, case folder, in reference to the death of Freddie Gray, the police integrity state's attorney, the chief deputy to Marilyn Mosby, somehow the best friend of Jan Bledsoe, who's Jane Miller, is able to contact an anonymous witness, Mr. Allen, out of the blue. It seems highly unlikely this is just mere coincidence.
I want to go through this. So the deputy state attorney, Janice Bledsoe, is in a relationship with the reporter that broke the story about the other prisoner changing his story.
Correct. It's a well-known fact that Miss Bledsoe and Miss Miller are very close friends.
So I guess you suspect then that pressure was brought to bear on this individual.
Right. And you know what? The best story that you're going to get from somebody is
Del Rio, Texas, home of Lake Amistad. Your host, Rob Wade. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded live Saturday, 2 May 2015. Episode 135. Finally, some bottom time. Well, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and I am the one guy who dives and feeling even more like the one guy who dives. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and here we are into a new month, really starting to get into the new dive season, and I tell you, I could not be happier. It's been frustrating not getting to dive as much as I would like to dive, and let me make some adjustments to the microphone here. But last weekend I finally got to did a self-reliant dive, or AKA solo dive, and I was really surprised at how good a dive it turned out to be. I'll be sharing with you here shortly some video of that dive, and so you can get an idea what the conditions are like out at Lake Amistad right now. I am a little bit distracted right now for a couple of reasons. One, did a barbecue today because it was gorgeous. It was beautiful today here in Del Rio, Texas, Southwest Texas. A little breezy. Would have liked to have pulled off a dive today, but I had a number of things to do around the house. But I plan, if the weather holds, I plan on doing a dive tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, so it was a little breezy today, but by the time I got all the house, the honeydews done, I was able to fire up the grill, and our poor decrepit grill, fire that up and do barbecue some hamburgers, some hot dogs this afternoon. So that always is a fun time, but eating that well, you just kind of get that lethargic feeling, and so a little distracted trying to keep myself from falling asleep there. Also, evidently they've been making some changes. Lots of changes going on lately. Evidently they've been making some changes at the Ustream website, and I tried to bring up the chat, and if you're watching right now, you're using Ustream, then you can see that one of the options that you have is to actually pop out the chat screen. If you move your mouse over the chat area, over to like the upper right corner or upper right quadrant of the chat, the social media or social stream / chat area on the Ustream page as you're watching, there are a couple of little icons, one for settings, one for pop out. When you click on that, it's supposed to let you pop out just that chat window, which is convenient for me when I'm doing the show, because I can then bring the chat room out as a separate window and then change my primary page there to watch Facebook, because I watch in case there's somebody on Facebook that's commenting, because every once in a while I do have somebody who's watching who's commenting that way. They might have been connecting via our Facebook page, which has a link, or has actually an embed of Ustream. So you could actually watch it through this Facebook app. And unfortunately, when I click that, and I'll try it again, but when I click that, it breaks out the chat, and it's thinking. And I see everything that's there. It even shows me logged in twice for some reason. But, oh, there we go. Now it seems to be working. That is weird. All right, so let's see what happens if... respond because I saw John is in the audience there. Good to have you with us there, John. Let's see if chat is working now. Yeah, so it's very odd, although it has me in twice. I don't know. It says Scubadog 2011 and 2011-1 as broadcaster, as if I'm broadcasting twice, which is impossible. Now let's see what happens if I close that window and shrink it. Yeah, there may be some issues with... no, still working. Yeah, okay, so it seems to be working. It was very odd, although it still has some issues. But interestingly, here, let me bring Graza up. She has decided she wants to join us. You want to say hi to everybody? No? Isn't she cute? You feeling left out? So anyway, so it was very odd. It would act like I'm not logged in. So I would click in the actual chat box and start to type in and say, oh, would you like to log in or register to chat? I thought, well, I am logged in because when I start the page, and excuse me while I bang on the window to shut Chiana up. She's barking at, she's on a tirade to bark on, just bark at just about anything. Anyway, so I click on the chat to break it out, and then when I try to actually chat with somebody, it would act like I wasn't logged in. So then I would close it and switch back to the main page, which still had Ustream on it, where I'm logged in, and I could chat fine. I'd pop out to chat again, and it wouldn't work. So I don't know what's going on with their website. They said that they were making some changes. I don't know. They still got some bugs to work out on. Whatever it was, they changed. So, and speaking of changes, I'm now on a new beta for the XSplit software that we use for the podcast here, and supposedly added some new features. Well, evidently these are some of these features, and I haven't gone through the exhaustive list of the features, but a couple of the features had to do with how things show up on the screen. Matter of fact, let me jump to the administrivia, putting the cart before the horse. You see how the text is lined up here. The way it used to work is when you add text, you can have it centered, which I do, and then you can, to help make everything look symmetric, you can then stretch the box that the text is in to the full width of the screen. And the text will then, depending on the size that you make the text, will stay within the confines of that box. Well, one of the features that they added, for lack of a better description, allowed the contents of whatever box you have to extend beyond the edges of the frame or of the scene, or there was a phrase they used for it, I can't recall. But anyway, it allowed it to extend past that. So as I was going through all the scenes to make sure everything looked correctly, and I probably will still be making some adjustments as we go here. The text was, because of the font that I had chosen, had extended beyond, so it was cutting off the beginning and ending within the boxes. So I had to figure out, because there were no additional instructions as to how to change back to normal, started kind of playing with some settings and discovered that turning the unchecking the box for maintain the ratio of height to width, turning that off allowed the text to fit within the confines of the box properly. So I'll probably be cleaning that up. So I'll have to remember that by default it appears that that's on. So I have to uncheck that every time I add a box of something, whether it's a website or screen region or text or something. So I'll have to be checking that. So I've again, making changes that actually are counterproductive. That's been my biggest complaint about Windows 10, as a matter of fact. They've been making changes all for desktop people, and then forgetting those of us who, yes, we use the desktop side, but we actually fully embraced the Metro side and thoroughly enjoy the immersive app experience. I don't want my Metro apps running on the desktop. They just released a new version of Windows 10 for the PCs on the tail of the 2015 Build conference that Microsoft hosted, and I'll be talking about that a little bit here shortly. And they think they're improving things, but they're just making it worse. And I'm not alone in my complaints about it, but obviously I'm way in the majority of all the Neanderthals who want to hold on to the legacy way of doing things on the desktop. So, all right. So anyway, unless you've been under a rock, you know what big movie, what big blockbuster debuted this weekend, and it was Avengers: Age of Ultron. And I gotta say, it was an impressive movie. Let me see if I can pull up Avengers: Age of Ultron. I just want... Where is... I can't believe... There we go. All right, switch to our screen region there. There you go. Turn off the lower third here. So there it is. It was a fantastic movie. I had thought that that Ultron and all of its minions, if you will, its robotic minions, were a result of the end of Iron Man 3, where Tony Stark had all these different armors that he ultimately did the self-destruct on, and that somehow, based on what I saw on the last episode of Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., that somehow the Loki's staff was going to alter Jarvis's AI in one of those pieces of armor, and thereby create a new AI that was self-aware and ultimately was going to destroy everything. The only part that I had right was that it had to do with the Jarvis AI, but not the way I thought. So I was mostly wrong on my predictions of how that storyline worked, but it was pretty cool. We saw the addition of some new characters from not new to the Marvel world, but new to the screen, which were pretty cool. And ultimately well done, although I won't give you any spoilers, but there were some things about it that I thought, oh, really? Did they have to do that? But ultimately it was very good. Again, Joss Whedon, excellent writer. The dialogue was witty and the repartee was awesome. Little budding romance bit was pretty cool. Again, I don't want to give any spoilers, but ultimately it was a good movie. I would give it, between the two Avengers movies, I'd say this was better than the first one. In all the Marvel movies thus far, I would say 8.5, 9. I liked Iron Man 3 probably better, and I liked Captain America Winter Soldier better than this as well. So but definitely you're not disappointed. There's some things that I missed because of laughter or reaction, etc., or just not able to hear well, maybe because of editing certain things. So looking forward to seeing it again to pick up on those pieces that I missed, and that often is the case. A movie that moves quickly, or is that it moves quickly in combination with maybe some poor sound editing, makes it difficult to hear what's being said. And so, that's interesting. That's something that Marvel's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. has a problem with, because of the way the dialogue is and the way some people speak and the way that the sound was recorded. In many cases, and I have excellent hearing, but in many cases, it's difficult. We end up having to rewind the DVR to catch what did they say? Just poorly recorded. They got to think about that, I think, better. You have a lot of additional effects, or the music often is the case, just overpowers the dialogue. So let's see. Now, next up should be Tomorrowland and San Andreas. I've only seen the trailer for Tomorrowland once on the big screen. I've seen it several times on the web, and it looks interesting. But they finally showed the San Andreas trailer while we were waiting to see Age of Ultron, and it really looks spectacular. It's this year's 2012 is what it is, basically. But looks pretty cool. Looks just as dramatic as 2012 was. So looking forward to that. Now, I mentioned that back in March, should have been the movie Black Sea. And nowhere was that to be found. Well, sure enough, as I predicted, it's now available on Vudu. So I'll be watching that, and I'll tell you what I think about that. Now, the reason why I was interested in Black Sea is because it features diving. So I was looking forward to seeing that aspect of it as a diver, of course. And now it may be that that's overplayed in the trailer and description, and there's not that much diving. And of course, if that's the case, I'll be sharing with you my disappointment. If not, definitely be giving you the ins and outs of that movie, and see if you're a diver and like that kind of stuff. See if it's worth you renting to see. So let's see. Oh, and still waiting to find out something on darn it, what was the movie from last week I talked about? I was looking for that was supposed to be released. Found out was Robot Overlords, that was supposed to be released at the end of last month, and saw nothing of it other than it's available overseas in a number of locations. So probably will never see it. Probably be another one of those wait to see on Vudu kind of thing. So, all right, jumping kind of back into the tech news, as I mentioned earlier, Microsoft had their Build conference, and they showed off a lot of stuff about the HoloLens stuff, which is very cool, I gotta say. But so far, based on what I'm seeing, it's very slow. And they even admitted, though, their big reason for buying Minecraft, the company that makes the Minecraft game, which I don't understand the attraction of that game. I've watched some little kids that are friends of ours play it, bores me to tears. But anyway, the reason why they bought that is for Minecraft, so people will be doing stuff with Minecraft. I want that to become the extension of Kinect for the Xbox One and also for PCs. I want that Minority Report. I want the Iron Man. I want that type of control. I want to be able to see and move and manipulate and control things virtually. Kinect now has gotten to a point where it's not responsive enough for me. I find I have to do too many things and too slowly. I liked it at first, but the updates they've been doing to Xbox One have been, I think, in my opinion, been making Kinect actually worse. And it's disappointing me because I would prefer to use that. And it seems like this is endemic of something that Microsoft is doing now, and it frustrates me and angers me because I love the Metro environment, and so I love Windows Phone. I love the Metro environment, so I love Windows 8.1, which all of our devices are running except my test machine, which is currently running the latest preview of 10, and I hate it. But what one of the things for me is I want to get away from the need for the keyboard completely. Whereas now what seems to be happening, everything that Microsoft is doing is forcing you to use the keyboard. Oh, well, Windows 10, you can do all these keyboard shortcuts. I'm like, do you not understand? One of the reasons I embraced Windows 8.1 or 8 and 8.1 is because I had to use the keyboard less. I could use touch. I could use the mouse like touch. I could use the touch pad. If you've got a keyboard that's got a touch pad on it, you can do the pinch and zoom. Ouch. You can do the pinch and zoom thing with that. So I don't want to have to use the keyboard other than for actually typing. It frustrates me. Cortana should be smart enough by now, and it is on the phone, that I can simply recite. Come here. I'm getting beckoned by Ronan. Come here. All right, Ronan, say hi to everybody. No? I'm going to say hi. All right. Kick you back here. All right, now I'm at the edge of my seat because now I've got my maximum of 2 dogs behind me here. So I should be able to tell Cortana what I want. Like Jarvis. That's what I want. I want, well, not as much as, I don't want the repartee with like Jarvis. I want more of the Star Trek computer as opposed to the HAL, the 2001 Space Odyssey computer. I want a computer that takes my commands, takes my dictation, does what I need to do, follows my instruction. I don't need to have a conversation with my computer. But everything that Microsoft seems to be switching gears on is getting away from that and focusing more on the stupid keyboard. I don't want to be a slave to the keyboard. I want the keyboard to be my last resort, my point of actual, I have to type something. But everything in Windows 10 is basically mouse spiteful. Whereas Windows 8, it's mouse friendly. Now, there are those who argue that it's keyboard spiteful, and I disagree, because everything that I could do in Windows 7, I can do in Windows 8 with a keyboard. Everything. The only thing that was ever missing was the old start menu. But I put everything on the start screen anyway in Windows 8. I have nothing on my desktop. I have nothing on my taskbar. I don't use those. They just are in the way. The desktop is merely a canvas upon which legacy programs run. Everything else runs off of from the Metro side for me, as much as I can. So anyway, so that's where they seem to be going with it. It just frustrates me. So anyway, one of the things they shared at Build also is that they're trying to woo again still developers from iOS and from Android to develop for Windows universal apps. Personally, I don't think they have a chance in the world of doing it. Here's the thing. Those of us who've embraced Windows Phone and Windows 8 from the beginning like the Metro environment, and you're moving away. Microsoft is moving away from that. They're moving everything on both the phone and the PC and tablets to look more like Android. Let's be honest. It's looking and functioning more like Android. So why would somebody who actually likes Android, why would they migrate to Windows Phone and Windows PC if they like Android? Just to get something that's a second-rate Android. It ain't going to happen. So I think Microsoft's barking up the wrong tree. I think they can just basically kiss their platform, goodbye. Because I don't see it happening. I'm trying to focus the screen here. There we go. It's a little bit harsh too. There we go. Trying to fine tune after the new update. So it's just frustrating me. And let's see. I mentioned last week. Where did I put it? I mentioned last week that PayPal. I use PayPal a lot, and a lot of people do. PayPal had finally rolled out their PayPal here application and platform, so you can actually accept credit cards for transactions, which is great because it even includes its own little device. Let me see if I can do this one. There we go. There we go. Hit the light the right way. So, and again, it's like the Square. It's like the Square. So literally, you plug it in to your device. It works on all three major platforms. Works on Android, iOS, and Windows Phone, and PC, because it also works nicely on my Surface Pro 3, which I finally got back, by the way. I was a little bit nervous because I was not expecting it back this soon. It said 3 to 5 weeks, and it's been just at 3 weeks, and they didn't really let me know it was coming back. So I had this package waiting for me, that came in the late afternoon. Happened to be on the day I was doing jury duty. So I get it back, and I turned it on. Of course, it had no juice, so I had to juice it up. And I had a dead pixel. I thought, oh, great, we have to send this thing back. Talk about frustrating, waiting for this thing, and it comes back, and it had dead pixel. Well, it had none of the updates on it, so I let it run all evening doing the updates, and via one of the updates, it seemed to clear up. So I haven't seen the dead pixel since, so I've been very pleased with it. So luckily, with the beauty of the Windows, the Microsoft account, the Outlook account, is that you can configure synchronization of your devices. So, which I have. So, when I logged in, it started synchronizing without me doing anything extra. It started synchronizing all of my settings, my tiles, the way my screen is set up, all started coming back. I only had to, as I went along, respond to some certain things that required like accounts or authentication, things like that. So, and then of course reinstall legacy programs, which I still have a few left that I need to install, but definitely glad to have it back. And so far everything's working well. It's charging fine and operates fine. The other thing I haven't tested the cameras back because it's got a decent camera in it, believe it or not. So anyway, I've got the PayPal here on my phone and on my tablet, so that I can actually accept credit cards. Now they have like a 1.9% processing fee or something like that, which is pretty good. But for my scuba business or hobby, if you really will, I can now process credit cards if I need to, which is cool. Okay, we're still looking for a co-host for the show. So and remember, John, we still got to get you in here to guest co-host, so you can kind of share what's going on with you, share your about your ministry that you have, which is pretty cool, with a children's home, which is pretty cool, or young folks home. Helping those kids out over in Mexico, where our church is partnered with another organization that does something similar over in Acuna, and so definitely want to give you a chance to share your diving exploits, as well as share a little bit about your ministry that you're involved in. So looking forward to that. We need to get that set up, but we're still looking for a permanent co-host for the show. So again, if you're a diver in the local area and you would like to try your hand at this, would love to have you come out and give it a shot. Again, you just need to be a diver. You don't have to be a professional speaker. Don't have to be a professional entertainer, or even a semi-professional or even amateur entertainer. You just have to be able to chat, be able to talk, be able to converse, which you probably do on a daily basis. And so this is just talking with me, and for the benefit of those who might be watching live or afterward, later on YouTube when we upload the show. So real quick, I just want to throw a little bit of commentary about the whole Baltimore thing. I mean, this has been eating up a lot of screen time, a lot of news time, and it's frustrating me. If you're not aware, there's a young man, Freddie Gray, who died while in police custody. Now, unfortunately, nobody really knew what was going on, but it did seem suspicious. And now the state attorney the attorney general for the state has levied charges against 6 officers that they believe are involved. And the charges range from false imprisonment, which I don't know if it's imprisonment if you haven't actually gone to prison. It might be false arrest, but I think imprisonment might not be a valid charge. But I don't know about Maryland state law. So anyway, ranging from that to even second-degree murder. And so looks like they'll get their day in court. Now, I'm assuming that charges don't necessarily mean indictment, so they'd have to get indicted, I think. So that there's still one step before it actually moves forward toward working toward trial. But thing is, before even these charges were levied, insanity ensued in Baltimore. I don't understand that. And now, even after what many of those protesters and rioters demanded was the charging of these officers, they're still protesting, and they're still often violent, and now it's expanded to other cities, major cities across the nation. Here's the thing. Here's a couple of things to remember. First of all, 3 of these officers are white, 3 are black. So if you're trying to say this was a racial thing, that's out the door. And yet a lot of these are complaining that, this is a war on blacks. It's not a war on blacks. And ultimately the truth about what happened in this situation needs to be revealed. The truth needs to come out. It's that simple. The truth will set you free. At least those of you who are responsible. But none of what happened justifies the violence, the destruction, the stupidity of what's been happening in Baltimore. Protesters are waving signs that say things like "Stop the war on black people." Yet, what everyone, particularly the mainstream media, is ignoring or intentionally neglecting to say is that most of the violence against blacks in this country is perpetrated by blacks. And yet all the focus seems to be on when it's not a black person who is perpetrating a crime, an actual crime, a violent act against black people. It's mostly blacks against blacks. There's the war. Why are you doing this to yourselves? And then they say things like Black Lives Matter, and yet amongst themselves it doesn't seem like Black Lives Matter. There's not a prejudicial, there's not a racist bone in my body. I have friends and relatives who are of various races and ethnicities. To me, I'm more prejudicial against your worldview, your philosophy. I'm more likely to be biased against you because you're a liberal than anything else. So I want to hear your heart. I want to hear what you think about things. how you view yourself, how you view the world. Those are the things that will influence the way I react to you. Okay? Those are the things that are going to influence the way I interact with you, or even if I choose to interact with you. Okay? I don't care about your color. And most people I know don't care about that. But then people want to insist on bringing that into the argument when it has no basis in the argument. Baltimore has been run for decades by black people all up and down the chain. Mayor, attorney, city council, the police department. You cannot say that this is a white thing. But what you can say is that the liberal philosophy, the liberal policies that have been implemented for decades in that city and in that state are probably a cause, not the cause, but probably a cause, a contributor to exactly the frustration that they're all experiencing. Because it devalues the individual. You are part of the collective in the liberal mindset. And so that is the kind of thing that devalues individuals. And so it's frustrating to me to watch all of this being not anything the result of a racist issue, not anything a result of a conservative issue, and yet fully 100% under the thumb of the quote-unquote progressive philosophy. And yet there are people, Al Sharpton and other fools, who go in here and say stupid things and do stupid things that just make it worse. How about we get back to the basics that this nation was founded upon? How about we do things that actually build up and help strengthen core family values, not create quasi pseudo families, not make it okay for men to plant their seed and then disappear as if that is the end of their responsibility. How about we make it important again that true core nuclear families are the most important thing? A man, a woman, raising a family, responsible, respectful, and desiring and having ambition to grow and become the best of everything that they can be. And be okay with understanding that even if you are at your best may not be as good as somebody else's, and that's not your fault and that's not their fault, but you can be the best you can be. You can reach the pinnacle of the talent and skill and desire that you have been given, and that is good, and that it's rewarded. That just because person B may have more musical talent or more understanding of engineering, a better ability to play a sport, does not in any way diminish you. But it's the idea that everybody needs a level playing field. No. There is no such thing as a level playing field. Not truly. There is only a leveled outcome, and that is artificially in place, that is artificially enforced by the progressive philosophy. I would like to see everybody in Baltimore and everybody in all these other cities, I would like them to take an introspective look and say, what are we doing to ourselves that diminishes us? What are we doing to ourselves that makes us less and makes us okay with being less? And yet conversely tells us that we can demand from other people something preferential when we won't even do that for ourselves. We won't even prefer ourselves. You know, the scripture says that we should love God with all of our heart, body, soul. And then love our neighbors as ourself. Love our neighbors as ourself. You can't love your neighbors if you don't actually love yourself. And what so many people has done because of the society that we've built, they've totally neglected and counterfeited what love of self really means. They don't truly love themselves. They hate themselves. How can you love yourself and let yourself be foul-mouthed and violent and insulting? All these things that you see on TV. You cannot possibly actually love yourself and allow yourself to behave that way. It's disappointing. And it's things that we've done to ourselves. So that's my commentary on the Baltimore thing. All of that is unnecessary. The rioting has nothing to do with the actual problems there. It has to do with people just taking advantage and trying to destroy other people's lives. You destroyed a CVS pharmacy, which is one of the major businesses that would actually helping your community. You destroyed a assisted living home, assisted living community or center, or whatever you want to call it. How in the world did that, what message did that send? What message did that send? I have an opinion about what that sent, and it's not pretty. It's time for people to quit stepping on the racist thing. Stop imagining there's a war of this group against another. And start looking at the war that you're committing against yourself. And that's in every situation. It's not just in things in Baltimore, but this is a war we're creating of people against ourselves. And it just needs to stop. Okay, so one of the things I saw in one of the latest looks like John lost the signal. Anyway, one of the things I noticed in the latest scuba diving magazine was talking about the growth of women in the diving community, and because for the longest time men dominated scuba diving, but I'll be honest with you, and I've said this before, probably better than half of my students are women. And in fact, so far for this May class, I've got somebody who's signing up for that woman. I've had a couple of guys talk to me about it, but they haven't signed up for it. So I've actually seen that more women are getting into the sport, and the recent article in Scuba Diving Magazine talks about how they're really making inroads. I mean, you look at whole lines of scuba gear are whole lines of scuba gear are geared towards women. Special colors, special designs for the feminine frame, and so forth. And there's a site that those of you in the female members of our audience might want to check out is missscuba.com. Let me go switch screen region here. So if you go to www.miss-scuba.com, and they've got a pretty cool website that talks about a lot of that. And you see some pretty cool stuff here. And let's see, cool little logo. Yeah, I love that. H2O plus a woman equals Miss Scuba. They've got lines of jewelry you can connect to. Pretty cool. Journeys, travel tips, gear for girls. Love it. Although not all of it is just for girls. I mean, this is all unisex type stuff. Love that. Diversity. Diversity. But then there are obviously some things that are designed for women. Pretty cool. See, I love this. My wife has a Diva XL or XLT BC, and it's kind of designed similar to of course, Ziegel is one of the more expensive brands and very customizable options for their gear, and but this is kind of the example of why my wife likes her Diva BC, is because it's got the cummerbund and no chest strap, but it's designed with basically kind of the front area that's kind of a sports bra almost kind of feel. So she feels comfortable, supported, but not restricted like a typical unisex BC would be. Oh, I love waterproof gear. My 5mm full wetsuit is and this is a dry suit, of course, is by waterproof. I love it. It's just very fashionable. I'd love to get another waterproof wetsuit. So you see lots of gear that could be unisex, but also some of it's very, very definitely feminine in design. So that's miss-scuba.com. Pretty cool website that you might want to check out. You know, there's tons of places. There's, is it Dive Diva? Dive Diva. Let me check. Probably shouldn't do this live. Sometimes you can get a website that is questionable. Let me use Bing. Dive Diva Skins. No. There was a website that focused mostly on wetsuits and skins for women. Where was it? No. May not find it. And I used to go there just to see some of the wild, and they didn't make it just for women, but that was some of the wild colors that they came up with were definitely for women. Oh, well, I can't find it. So anyway, but there are tons of sites out there now that focus on the feminine form, the feminine diver, and so you can just do search for that. If you go to even Diver Supply, women. Let's see what. Here we go. Switch screen region. Yeah, you can see a lot of of course, the wetsuits for women. BCD. There we go. The Celine and the Jasmine. Both of those are Tusa. Designed for women. Typically, they're higher cut on the hip to allow for more comfortable movement for women because of the way they're shaped. It's pretty cool. Go back. Let's see. Let's dive suit. Figured they would have like the fins and things like that. Anyway, those are some of the options that you have. You can go to websites and look specifically for women's gear. They have special colors for women, things like that. So worthwhile if you're a woman diver or your significant other is a woman and you'd like to get them something, you can get stuff tailored specifically for them, and because they are a growing they're starting to dominate the scuba diving experience, which is pretty cool. Which I'm sure all the male dive instructors and dive masters are loving that, especially the single ones. But I find that they're generally more attentive students, actually, believe it or not. They're more serious about the actual course, and and they're serious to the point, actually, of sometimes getting frustrated when they feel like they're not going to be able to overcome a particular skill that's challenging them. Most often it's the mask removal and replacement and clearing. That one gives them often the hardest time, and so when they feel like that's going to be the thing that derails their completion of the course, they can get frustrated and emotional, and I totally get that. But I also know that they can succeed, but that just shows you how determined they are to complete the course. They want to succeed, so they're more serious and more determined than usually than the male students that I have, which is kind of surprising, but I've come to accept that as kind of the norm. I usually don't. There's not too many times that I don't see that to be the case in a group that's diverse. So it's pretty cool. So let me get to, as I mentioned, last Sunday, I got to finally get my first dive of the season. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to finally do that, and had a great time. I had actually gone out Saturday to take some shots of the lake, which I showed on last episode 134, that I wanted to show you, and I was really surprised at how clear the water appeared, given all the rain that we've had. It's been very wet here this year, and I would say unseasonably wet. And we've had just a series of rainy days and then big storms at night. And we had one on a pretty good thunder boomer on Friday night. And then we had, and of course, then I saw that the lake looked great even after that gully washer. And then we had one again Saturday night. And so even though I was determined to get a dive in Sunday, because after seeing how nice it was on Saturday, I thought, if it's sunny on Sunday, I'm going to dive. But we'd had a big storm again on Saturday night. So I was really thinking, okay, there's no way 2 big storms like this in a row. There's no way after that I'm going to have a good dive. But it was still just as clear, and I was shocked. So without any further ado, I'm going to share with you the video. those fish while we were there, but while I was there. Mostly smaller ones. A lot of activity shorter, shallower depths, but it was fairly sparse the deeper that I went. Again, if you're in the Del Rio area, I'm planning on hitting the water tomorrow about 2:30. And it'll be back out at this spot, by the way. Here's little old me. Always have to get a selfie in there because I'm usually the one holding the camera, and I get shots of other people. So this is the only thing I can do to get a shot of, make sure that everybody knows, yep, I was here. I was doing this. Now, of course, it is typically greenish there at depth. And I had set the camera to light mode. In other words, you can tell it what lights you have attached, the strobe and the video light. So it assumes that it's not going to have to compensate for color. But unfortunately, yes, it was cold at this point because I dropped below that second thermocline. Just very odd seeing all these cloudy wisps there. I was starting to pick up the pace because I was getting chilly. the lake levels dropped so precipitously, we had a rope and basically just an empty gallon jug tied to both boats, and they marked these two. We had one marked boat 1 and boat 2, and people would destroy them, poke holes in them, just be idiots. But I tried to always keep markers on these so that people could divers could find them easily. These actually make a good exercise for navigation skills, because you can drop on the dive chest and then set your compass to about 270 and hit the small boat, and then change to 278 and hit the big boat. And then if you wanted, you could just reverse your course back, and you should end up back at the dive chest. Or from the big boat, set it to 300, and then you could end up just on the inside of the cliff area as it curves around, where everybody goes jumping off of. And you could check out some of the caves that are under the cliff area. And I say check out, most of them are not big enough for you to actually get into. A couple of them sort of are, but you really can't get really deep into them. But you can silt them up really bad. And if you've paid attention to this show for any length of time, you've heard us share a number of the dive accidents involving people going into caves and silting it up. So if I had set my camera to not use the external lights, it would have compensated a large amount for, not completely, but it would have compensated digitally for the hues. she's, like I said, you get shallower, that's where it gets busy. Of course, there's the small boat. Normally, this boat is about 40 feet of water, so it's only about 20 feet right now. Hence the plentiful fish hanging around. But I'm teaching a class. This is, I tell them about the two sunken boats, and this is the boat that I get to take them to on typically dive 4, the open water dive 4, because it's within the 60 that they can go. I usually can't take them to the big boat because it's typically at 70, 75 feet. Yeah, that wasn't in the video. That was actually from a website I was looking at. As I was heading back to the dive chest, ran across this little fella. He was eating size. He was a good size. There he goes. dive chest again. The thing about natural navigation is you make a note of significant things that you'll remember and get a view of them, both coming upon them and from behind. In other words, as you're leaving them, so you'll know what it looks like when you're coming back to it. And then making note of things like the depth. That's a critical thing. So for instance, if I know that the dive chest is at 10 feet, I know if I'm in the vicinity and heading in the right general direction in an area where it's a pretty consistently sloping area, I know I run a reasonable chance of coming back across a significant spot. So it makes natural navigation a lot easier thing to do. So hope you enjoyed that video. Just a hint of what it looks like right now at, or at least as of last weekend, at Lake Amistad out Scuba Cove, which, if you're not familiar with the area, if you go to Diablo East Marina, then come back this way. There's a come back towards town, basically southeast. There is a cliff area that people go off of, and then right off to the right of that is a cove, a protected cove. Now, I say it's protected. It's got buoys that tell that warn against powered boats. There's not supposed to be any boats in there. So it is specifically marked for scuba diving, picnicking, and swimming. Okay, so that the one of the things that I always liked about that area is that you could dive without carrying a dive flag, which, as someone who typically ends up being the one carrying the dive flag, I don't like to have to carry one. So I'd rather plant one if I have to and then just swim around it. Or be in an area that's protected that I don't have to bring one. So that's what I like about Scuba Cove. But the downside is it's a pretty good trek. If you saw the pictures that I took in last episode, 134, you'll see that it is a trek. I was sore Monday at work after having I carried my gear down. I wore my gear back up. So when I got out of the water, I had everything still on. All I did was pull the fins off. So I was carrying the fins and the mask, and I walked all the way up wearing the gear. And of course, since I was in my 5 mil full wetsuit, I had 6 pounds of lead to get down, because that's what I need in fresh water to get down in my 5 mil. And then, plus the weight of the gear itself, I really got a workout climbing up that hill wearing the gear. So you definitely want to make sure you're in shape going out there. But that's the downside of doing diving in a protected area like that, is because you have to take that track up and down. So, and that's the dive I'll be doing tomorrow. So for those of you who might find yourselves in the area where I'm planning to, wow, my phone is causing my little studio speakers to go wild. So I'm planning on hitting the water 2:30 tomorrow. So out at Scuba Cove. So if you'd like to join us, looks like John, and unless something comes up, John's going to be meeting me out there. So looking forward to hitting the water, doing a dive with him tomorrow. Bring your 5 mil wetsuit as a minimum. If you got your 7 mil, you might be more comfortable. If you're only bringing a 5 mil, I'll bring my 5. Well, I have all my suits in the trailer, but I'll wear my 5 mils so I don't have an unfair advantage over you. So let's see. One last thing, just a couple of last things. A couple episodes I was talking about getting prepped for the new season, and one of the things you want to make sure you do is you have your first aid kit. Of course, this is the kit that I have in the dive trailer, and so I have like an entire emergency wall. So it's got fire extinguisher, it's got radios,
the dive flags, all that stuff. It's got, and then the kit. Now, one of the things that you want to do is refresh your kit on a regular basis. So, and what I mean by doing that is go through it and see if there's anything. Here's the thing: you hope you never have to use an emergency kit, a first aid kit. You hope you never have to use one. But you always want to make sure you have one available, especially as a diver, because any number of things can happen. Something as simple as, especially out here at Amistad, you could snag yourself on a fisherman's hook, not because they're actively fishing, but because people fish where they're not supposed to, especially in Scuba Cove. It says no fishing, yet people fish there all the time. I'm always chasing them out. And so what happens? There's a lot of old trees and bushes, shrubbery, down there, and so they get hooked on those things and they cut the line. So there's lots of line down there and lots of hooks. So you may not see it before you've gotten snagged by it. So you may come up out of the water with a hook, or bleeding from getting stuck by a hook, or any number of things that could cause an injury. And so having a fresh first aid kit is important. And it doesn't have to be Dan, Divers Alert Network. They sell some very nice, very extensive kits with some really nice cases, etc. And they have ones that are specifically designed for divers with guides, etc., that divers would typically use. Just reading have to get my old man glasses on, see what John's saying. Yeah, poor John is battling Netflix with everybody. Actually, he's probably battling Netflix with my wife. I think she's catching up on, she's been binge watching Jericho on her machine. And I keep telling her, don't be streaming down while I'm doing the podcast. Although this is all upload, it does negatively impact certain things. If I'm trying to stream something from the web to you, basically what happens if I show a video, if I show something on the web, like a YouTube video, I'm actually downloading it or streaming it from YouTube to my computer and then through this software back to you via a screen region scene. So you're actually seeing it coming to me and then to you again. So I'm downloading and uploading at the same time. And so it negatively, when she's live streaming, she's negatively impacting me. So it might be at least a small contributor to your issues. But you can always watch it, John, after the fact, because I'll be uploading it immediately after the podcast is over, which we're just about winding down, but I just wanted to share this. You don't have to go through Dan or any other dive shop. You can simply go to Walmart. I got this kit at Walmart. And you can augment it, which I suggest that you do. They tell you all the different things they have in there, but think about the types of situations you might find yourself in, and then look to make sure that you have features, aspects, items in your dive kit. I've actually packed this thing much fuller than what it comes out of Walmart. I bought additional items or got a different kit that has different things in it. So, I've got everything from instant cold compacts, compresses, to like finger splint, various wrapping tape, medical tape, various painkillers, aspirin and non-aspirin pain relievers, various ointments, sting reliever, antiseptic, regular alcohol pads, as well as just as antibiotic pads, Neosporin, medical gloves in there as well, a couple of pairs of those. Just think of the different kinds of things that you might, accidents you might run into, and make sure you have plenty of that in the kit. Now, I have this actually mounted. I have a spot for it that it is mounted to there in the dive trailer, right at the opening, so it's easy to get to compared to everything else in the dive trailer. but you should have some form of a kit that with you on your dive. In addition to this very, very full kit in the dive trailer, I also have a smaller kit for more immediate things till we can get the kit from the trailer, get the victim to the trailer. That's in my dive bag. I have a red dive bag that's got a lot of my training gear, some additional other spare Save a Dive kit type things, as well as a smaller first aid kit. Now, what you want to do is refresh the kit on a regular basis. At the very least, do it at the beginning of the season. Go through the kit, open it up. Like I said, you hope you never use it, but that means that you could go years without using any of it and not realize that some of the items have an expiration date or are at least not as effective as they could be. Some of the ointments, etc., can degrade over time. So especially changes in heat, changes in temperature and things like that can affect some things. Gloves can deteriorate. So go through your kit, look at things that might be outdated, toss them, replace them with fresh items, so that you're ready for the new season. It's important to make sure that it's just like checking your gear out on a regular basis to make sure it's up to snuff, but also make sure your emergency equipment is up to snuff. If you've got fire extinguishers, check it to make sure it's up to date. I got my O2 kit there. Everything is all set. So it's a good idea to refresh your first aid kit. And if you don't have a first aid kit, I can't encourage you. Anywhere from $8 to 15, 20, 30 bucks, depending on the kind of emergencies you want to prep for. And then just augment it with additional Band-Aids or whatever you think is going to be appropriate. This has come in handy. This actually came in handy in helping a dog that got injured. So, knowing that I could just immediately go to the dive trailer and grab this kit was definitely helpful. So, but then also you may find that be aware if you do run across an emergency that you need to address, and you find that you don't make note of something. Make note of the things that you discovered that you don't have in your kit, but guess what? It would have been good to have X, Y, and Z in there. Didn't realize I would need it, but I ran across a situation where I did. And that actually happened when we were dealing with this issue with this dog that we found. I discovered that there was a particular item that I would have benefited from a better a larger quantity of and a better quality of. So I then set about to augment my kit, replace it with the better version of this item. So those are things you want to consider when you're decking out your dive kit or your first aid kit. Okay, let's hit some administrivia before we head out today. Okay, next Del Rio Dive Club meeting is on 21st of May at 7 p.m. at Rudy's Restaurant. Join us there if you'd like to enjoy some good food and just talk about diving adventures, etc. Dive classes for the year, May 20th to the 31st, need to be signing up right about now for the May class. And you can sign up as early as you want for the future classes, but definitely no later than the first week of that month for the class. I've got one person who is going to be meeting me tomorrow evening to sign up for the May class, and potentially got 3 other guys who are going to sign up for it. So this might be shaping up to be a busy dive season. So next opportunity be June 25th through the 28th, July 23rd through the 26th, August 27th through the 30th, and September 24th through 28th. And of course, I can do these are all basic courses, but I can do the advanced, etc. If I can get sufficient interest in doing so. If you need air fills, I first tried to send business to Mike McCarson out at the Broke Mill RV Park out on Highway 90 West. That is just on the other side of the new loop that is out there as you head out towards Lake Amistad. Just give him a call ahead of time, 830-719-2935, so he knows you're coming, so he can make sure the building that he has the cascade system in is unlocked and the system's ready to go. But he can fill 4 tanks at a time pretty quickly there, about 10 minutes. Pretty good setup. If he's not available, I can do air fills. I've got a compressor that's for personal use as well as for my classes, and it's I can do 2 tanks at a time. It's not tremendously fast, about 20 minutes from for a typical air fill. But so I try not to I'm not trying to make a business of doing it. Just need to, if I am filling other people's tanks, I just need to make a little bit of money to offset the cost of the super expensive filters for this thing. So, but just give me a call and I'll help you out if Mike can't help you out. You'll probably notice a little bit difference in my extolling of a Pet's Wish. Normally I say a Pet's Wish needs volunteers, but now at this point they do need volunteers, sort of, but they really need donations because they have huge vet bills that they've amassed over time to help all these poor, dumped, abused, neglected, intentionally harmed animals that have come their way. And, they've rarely turned any away. And, not all have survived, but many have. And, they've done what they can. Unfortunately, the location that they currently have down on Main Street, they're having to vacate that. Unfortunately, the size of their operation grew to a point where it's my understanding, the insurance that the person who was donating the use of the building was covering would no longer cover what was the monumental size of the task that a Pet's Wish was taking on, and so they basically have to are having to vacate. And so we're desperately hoping that someone in the Del Rio area has a building and some property that they would be willing to donate the use of. That would be a perfect spot to house and take care of these poor animals. This is a problem that Del Rio has created. This is a problem that the citizens of Del Rio have created. It is the citizens of Del Rio, I'm sorry to say, that they get animals that they're not prepared for. They refuse to spay or neuter them, so they end up getting loose and pregnant and end up having more puppies that these people refuse to take care of. They keep them chained and abuse them and beat them. They let them out in the front yard to go potty, but then there's nothing protecting them, nothing keeping them home. So they run off. Oh, I don't understand why he ran off. Well, because he was given free rein. You've got to keep a protected area for them. But this is what the neglect and ignorance and selfishness of too many people in Del Rio have created. So we have a tremendously huge stray population of dogs and cats. We have a tremendous problem of people dumping these animals on the side of the road, in parking lots, even at a Pet's Wish, because they're lazy, selfish, ignorant, and I'm sorry to be harsh, but I'm calling it as I see it. Dogs and cats are domesticated. We've domesticated them. And so we have a responsibility individually to take care of them. And there are a handful of people in this town that have graciously donated money and supplies and time to help a Pet's Wish, to volunteer, although not nearly enough did it. There are many more people who have, like us, are fostering animals that just didn't have room at a Pet's Wish. But the bottom line is the time has run out to be able to stay in the location that they're at, and so they've had to take a lot of the the dogs and cats and find other rescues in Southwest Texas who are willing to take them. And they still have a handful of dogs left, and they still have quite a few of the cats left. And at this point, I think they're in station keeping mode, basically trying to adopt out what they have. They cannot take any more in. As much as it will break Katrina's heart, break our hearts, if people come in with an animal that's been hurt or dumped, they're going to have to say no, because they have to be out of the building. And so they're trying to get rid of the animals that they've got so they can do that until, and put all the equipment that they have in storage, which is also another challenge, until we can find somebody who has got a building property that's just been sitting there, which there's plenty of those in this town, but somebody has got a building and some property that they'd be willing to donate the use of. You get a tax break. It's well worth it. You'll be helping a worthwhile organization and some people who have a genuine heart to help these poor, abused, neglected, dumped animals, stray animals, to find a forever home. We've always been dachshund people, and so we had 3, and then after we started volunteering at a Pet Swish, we ran across one of the animals that came through was a dachshund Chihuahua mix, more favoring a dachshund, but not quite as robust. But we just fell in love with her and we adopted her. And then months later, there was a little, I'm not sure what Hazel is, but a mix that was just barely weaned, and we agreed to foster her. Unfortunately, we've had her now. She's full grown at this point and bigger than our dachshunds, but we'd still like to find a home for her. Although, we love her, but she's not a dachshund, so, we're a little bit biased. But there are a lot of people who've done that as well and have had these dogs for a long time. So it's almost like they adopted them, but, we would gladly give Hazel up to a forever home if we could just find one for her. But at this point, we need a building, need some property, and definitely need some donations to help pay down the debt that a Pet Swish has acquired up to this point. So if you'd like to help them out, they are on Facebook. Look them up and get a hold of Katrina, and which is kind of hard to do because she's all over the place trying to work all of this. But just be persistent, be patient, and she will get back to you eventually. Post on the Facebook. They do have a PayPal site if you'd like to donate money, or a PayPal account if you'd like to donate that way. That's a good, easy, safe way to do it as well. But please help them out so they can kind of get things on an even keel and hopefully get going again, because it's a service that's desperately needed in Del Rio and Southwest Texas, and certainly in Val Verde County. So anyway, we're winding down. Golly, 2 hours in the show. Can you believe it? Again. So barring any unforeseen circumstances, we'll be back again next week. Hope to show you some video of the dive we do tomorrow, which will be pretty cool. Hopefully the weather holds and the visibility holds. That would be great. And again, if you're in the area tomorrow afternoon, just I'm going to post it on our Facebook page, and you can you're certainly welcome to join us if you'd like. Let's see if you'd like to get, and again, that's if you visit our Facebook page, is just look for Del Rio Dive Club on Facebook. And then also we have a website, delriodiveclub.com. And of course, if you'd like to send me email, be in contact with me, ask me any questions, make any suggestions, find out more about the classes that maybe wasn't covered on our webpage, just send me an email, robert.wade@cetifox.net, right here below on the lower third. Or you can follow me on Twitter as well. I'm very prolific on Twitter. I'm very opinionated on Twitter. I am a bit of a political activist on Twitter, but if you can tolerate that, definitely invite you to follow me on Twitter. Just look for Robert CFP, which stands for Ceti Fox Productions. And I will follow you back unless you're really obnoxious or vulgar, and then I probably won't follow you. But I try to follow everybody who follows me just out of respect. And plus, you probably have some really worthwhile things to share with me as well. So thank you all for watching. John, I hope you enjoyed what you could see of the show, given everybody watching on Netflix in San Antonio there. You can watch it on YouTube later. I'll be uploading immediately after we finish the podcast. That's one of the things I love about this XSplit software, because it's recording even as we go. So everything you see happening is actually what's going on the video. I don't worry about doing post-production because I try to do all the pre-production first, so that you have the lower thirds and all the transitions, all that stuff. That's the beauty of it. We're trying to do a one-man show. That's the only way to fly. It's the only way to fly. Self-assisted, self-reliant, as they say, or solo. So, so without any further ado, that finishes it up this week, and we hope to see you next week on another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive. See ya!